I'm ready. Hi, everybody. If you're looking for a Solar Power Hour presented by Milwaukee Shines and the Milwaukee Public Library, you're in the right place. We're just going to give everybody a few minutes to kind of get settled here before we start. Thank you so much for coming. Hi everyone, this is Solar Power Hour presented by the Environmental Collaboration Office, Milwaukee Shines Department, and the Milwaukee Public Library. So you're in the right place if that's what you're looking for. We're just making sure everybody is settled and everyone's coming in right now. Thank you so much for coming. All right. Hi there, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. All right, I think we can get started. So this is the Milwaukee Public Library's presentation of, in collaboration with the Environmental Collaboration Office's Milwaukee Shines Department, Solar Power Hour. So you're in the right place. This programming is part of a slate for the ALA's Climate Resiliency Grant. Libraries respond to climate change. So we have a Climate Action Book Club, and we have a lot of other great programming, rain garden programming and things like that. So I will put a link in the chat about all the other programming there. And I just want to throw it over to Elizabeth Hitman from Milwaukee Shines. Thank you so much for coming. And she's going to do a presentation for us. So if you have any questions, we do have a Q&A section at the bottom. So feel free to put your questions for her there, and we'll have a little Q&A at the end. And if you have any tech issues, just go ahead and type to us. Beth, my co-chair, and I will be around to help you with your questions if you have any tech problems. All right, and I'm gonna hand it over to Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. All right, I just have to share my screen here. I can figure this out. Bear with me. All right. So you guys, everyone can see that, correct? Hopefully, yes.
Looks great, Elizabeth. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so if you signed up for the Solar Power Hour, you're in the right place. And I just want to thank the Milwaukee Public Library. They've been so great promoting all forms of sustainability through their Resilient Communities grant. They have a lot of great programming, so be sure to check it out and sign up for their emails. So my name is Elizabeth Hitman. I work for the City of Milwaukee's Environmental Collaboration Office, which is just a fancy way of saying Sustainability Office. I'm in City Hall right now, so it looks very official. So we work on all forms of sustainability for the city, including energy, green space, urban gardening, water, electric vehicles, kind of do all of it. So there's a lot of great stuff going on. You can check out our website. And this is me on the roof of Central Library downtown. So just a quick overview of our presentation for today. I'm kind of a fast talker, so there's a lot of slides. So just a quick welcome and overview, some great photos of solar in Milwaukee. You know, a lot of people think, can't do solar here, can't do solar in Wisconsin, it's too cloudy, it's too snowy. That is not true. Every photo, except for maybe like a few, are from the City of Milwaukee, like this picture right here. This is a garage on the east side that's very beautiful. Solar basics, explain how solar works, the components that go into it. Anytime someone installs solar, we want them to feel comfortable and knowledgeable about what's going on with their home. So we kind of like to give people a little solar 101. Financials, probably the number one asked question is like, how much is this going to cost me? How much will this save me? Give a little overview of our group buy program, which we are about to launch, and talk about solar dubs, and then have time for Q&A. So we can get started. So just a quick overview of Milwaukee Shines, which is one of the programs that I run for the City of Milwaukee. We really work to expand solar energy through a comprehensive citywide approach. So we are helping people to reduce energy costs not only for themselves, but we're helping to reduce energy costs for the city. Milwaukee Shines partners with community partners to build a clean energy future. This photo right here is from probably 10 years ago, but this is a Habitat for Humanity homes, and a lot of them got renewable energy through a partnership with our office and a nonprofit in town. We have lots of partnerships in the city. We love to promote solar. One of our favorite partners, obviously, Milwaukee Public Library. And past projects through our office have been funded through U.S. Department of Energy grants. So probably for about a decade, we've been getting funding through the Department of Energy. And they've been a great partner as well. For those of you that watched the news this week, you know, it was obviously not an ideal day, but so much planning went into it, we couldn't cancel it. There was a press conference with the mayor this past Tuesday, because it snowed on Monday. And he announced the city's newest solar installation, which is 9-acre solar field by the airport. A lot of people were asking where it was exactly because they wanted to go check it out. And it's not really easy to see it's like right around College Avenue. 1600 College Avenue, but it's in right next to the Air National Guard, air refueling. So there's a lot of high security. You can see the barbed wire fence behind Mayor Barrett there. So there's a lot of security, but if you are flying in and out of the airport, you'll definitely be able to see it. And that's just went live a couple weeks ago. So we're excited for that. Those of you that work downtown, you might recognize this. This is the first large-scale carport in the city of Milwaukee. That's on private property, but really cool to see. This everyone's favorite Urban Ecology Center. If you haven't been to their Riverside Park location, they've had solar for probably over a decade, and this is a pretty big installation. Looks cool. It's not solar, but we're still really proud of it. The wind turbine, for those of you that ever take 795 or Homebridge towards Bayview, or if you live in Bayview, you've probably seen that wind turbine. That's actually owned by the city, and it provides all the electricity needed for the port building. So the Port of Milwaukee is technically a net zero energy building that produces all the energy that's needed. And then a great photo of Central Library downtown. They have a green roof and 2 separate solar installations. So a really old building that's a great example of sustainability in the city. This one probably isn't as recognizable to most folks since it's so close. The photo's really close, but this is the front facing wall of the Milwaukee Public Museum. So you can kind of see this from the roof of the downtown Central Library. So it used to be a marble facade with like swans or geese on it, and that marble was kind of falling down. So they needed to replace it, and they replaced it with solar panels. This photo is for Fawn, our host today. This is her library branch, Tippecanoe. They were one of the libraries that we worked to install solar on. They have a lot of great green infrastructure as well. And the good thing about this branch is you can see it from the ground. A lot of the times you can't see solar from the ground because it's on the roof. But this is a great example. You can go check it out. This is Center Street Library. So Fond du Lac is the street at the top, Fond du Lac and Center. And they also were one of the libraries we worked to install solar on. Okay, so solar basics. How does solar work? What are the basic components? We like to start with a little bit of like vocabulary, because solar installers will toss around phrases and terms, and sometimes it can get confusing. So what is a kilowatt and what is a kilowatt hour? So a kilowatt is a unit of capacity, and it's basically the unit that describes the maximum output of electricity from a solar array. It's also the way that people describe the size of a solar system. So for example, the solar array that I showed at Tippecanoe Library, that is 39 kilowatts. So it kind of helps refer to the size as well. So a 5 kilowatt solar array can produce a maximum of 5 kilowatts of power at any given instant under premium conditions, so sunny. A kilowatt hour is a unit of energy. And that's also how you are charged for your energy use on your utility bills. So it's how you describe how much energy a solar panel is producing at a certain amount of time. Also, if you check out your We Energies bill, the list kilowatt hours, and that's basically how much energy you're using in your home, and that's how they know how much to charge you. And every home is different. Every home uses different amount of electricity. So it's a little bit hard to say across the board what goes for every home. I like this picture here. This is a homeowner in Bayview, I believe. And, you know, he had real limited roof space, but he made it work. He's just got a couple panels up there. So it's kind of perfect because you can do a system that fits your energy needs or fits your roof space. We get 2 questions more than any other questions. Do we get enough sun? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Wisconsin gets enough sun to make solar work. This is a map showing the average amount of sun across the United States. Obviously, the southwest of the United States gets the most sun, and so solar is amazing out there, produces a lot of electricity. But we also get a lot of sun here, and it's definitely doable. The little inset on this map you can see is Germany. Germany gets about the same amount of sun as Alaska, and Germany produces almost 50% of their country's energy needs from solar and renewable energy. So we get way more sun than Germany, so it's definitely doable. So the answer is yes, it does work in Wisconsin. Second question we get asked the most is, what about the snow? And obviously it does snow here, and we get a lot of snow, you know, depending on the winter. Solar panels are covered with a real heavy duty glass, and they're always installed at an angle. So, and they're a dark surface. So if it snows, the snow might stick to them for a little bit, maybe a couple hours, maybe a day, but they will heat up and the snow will just slide right off. So there's really no maintenance. You don't have to go and shovel your solar panels or scrape them off. I think some people get, you know, really anxious if there's snow on their solar panels, so they'll brush them off with like a little brush, but you can like set it and forget it. The snow slides right off. And here's a great, this actually just came out, so because it's for 2020, just kind of a really great overview of the solar industry in general, talking about jobs, the amount of electricity that's produced. It's kind of a lot of information, but I can always email this, the link from this. It's produced by the Solar Energy Industries Association. But on the very bottom right, you can see a solar project is installed every 75 seconds now, somewhere in the country. It lists the corporations that are utilizing the most amount of solar. So Apple, Amazon, Walmart, Target. The Target in Bayview has solar on the roof. Not a lot of people know that. And just talking about the growth of the solar industry, and it's just growing exponentially, which is amazing, and we're happy to see that. Solar installations to date, solar accounted for 43% of all new electricity generating capacity added in the US in 2020. So almost half of the new electricity generated in the United States from solar. That continues to go up. I had to like edit this little photo on the right because it changes like probably every 2 to 3 months. So a new solar array installed every 75 seconds in the United States, and that's expected to increase this year and next year. Home values, a really important question for folks that are thinking about installing solar, but maybe don't think that they'll be in their home for 20 or 25 years. You know, is it a good investment if we're going to move in 5 years or 10 years? And the answer is yes. So Zillow did a study, as well as Berkeley National Lab and the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, which is the research arm of the Department of Energy, studying sale of solar homes. In the past, it was more common for California homes that had solar to be on the market, but now solar is, you know, so popular across the country. They got some great data from across the country, and homes with solar sell for about 4% more than their non-solar counterparts, and they sell faster. A lot of times people see solar on a home as like an added amenity similar to like granite countertops. So it definitely helps you sell your home, which is great. This kind of shows just the exponential growth that I was talking about. The 3 colors are residential, non-residential, and utility scale, continuing to go up. You can see there's a real spike in 2016. That's when the federal tax credit, everyone thought it was going to expire. So we saw a huge jump in 2016. It kind of went down a little bit, but now it's going back up, which is great. So this picture kind of shows the most typical way that you would see solar installed on your home or your business. So the panels will be mounted to your roof, ideally in a south-facing exposure, but you can do east-west, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So the main components of your solar system, the panels, an inverter, which is a piece of equipment that converts the electricity from DC to AC, which is the electricity that comes out of the sockets in your house. So that inverter, and since we are in We Energy's territory, they require you to have a second utility meter installed, which your solar installer can do. And so you would have 2 meters on your house, one showing how much electricity you're using and one showing how much electricity your solar panels are producing. And so that's tied into the grid. And so those are basically the major components. It's pretty simple. Here is a picture of that inverter, that piece of equipment. It's referred to as the heart of the solar array. And basically it converts the electricity from DC or direct current to AC, alternating current. The great thing about inverters too is they also help monitor your solar. So I have to move my picture here a second so I can read. That picture at the bottom is what a homeowner would see if they had solar, and the inverter allows them to monitor the output of their solar on a daily basis, which is really fantastic because it kind of allows you to geek out on your energy production, which is exciting. The other thing you would see if you installed solar is the balance of systems or batteries. Batteries are becoming way more popular. In the past, no one really in the Milwaukee area installed batteries. The cost is really high. We are seeing the cost of batteries come way, way down. You know, people get excited when they hear about the Tesla Powerwall and other lithium-ion batteries. And as they're being produced more and more, the cost is coming down, and there's a lot of different products to choose from. This picture shows lead-acid batteries, which is becoming less common. A Powerwall is similar in size to an inverter and mounted on your wall. But the balance of systems is basically like all the conduit and wiring that allows the solar to be connected to your house and also connected to the grid. Or just for reference for folks that are interested in batteries, it is something that you can install at a later date if you're installing solar to start with. And you think you might want batteries, you can always do it at a later date, and you can talk to your contractor about that. But right now it probably will add in around $20,000 to the cost of your system. So it's still pretty expensive. But if you have critical loads that you never want to be without power, it might be something you want to look into. And we do see the cost of batteries coming down in the future. So it's something that will become more affordable. So there's 3 different types of inverter setups that you can have in your home or your business and that your installer can talk to you about. The first is a string inverter. And again, the inverter is that piece of equipment that converts the electricity from the solar panels to AC, which is what you use in your home. A string inverter is one inverter for your entire solar array. And so that's pictured here. The next type of inverter is called a microinverter, and it's like a little baby inverter on the back of every single solar panel. The challenge with solar, the proper siting of solar, is that you really want as little shading as possible. So if you have a totally shade-free roof, no shading issues at all, a string inverter will be fine because your solar panels will all produce. They're all connected to each other. So if you have a little bit of shading in a situation like this, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but if you have a little bit of shading on one of the solar panels, it could potentially knock out the production of the whole system because it's all connected. So if your contractor comes to your house and takes a look at your roof or your garage roof, or even if you're going to do a system in your backyard and there's a little bit of shading, they're probably going to recommend that you use microinverters. So if shading covers one panel, just the production of that one panel will be affected. The rest of them will still keep producing at like full capacity. So that's a little inverter on the back. This is a really common situation that we're seeing right now is called power optimizers. So if you get bids from contractors and they are talking about optimizers, you'll know what they're talking about. And it's kind of the best of both worlds. You have one inverter, that string inverter, and this piece of equipment that helps alleviate any sort of lost production from shading and impacting the entire array. So those are the 3 configurations that you might see. Racking is the other component that I started talking about a couple years ago because so many people would ask me if the solar panels were attached directly to their roof, and the answer is no. The solar panels are attached to racking, and that racking is attached to your roof. So this, for example, is a home in Bayview, and they have a metal roof, so the racking is just clipped right to the seams of the metal roof. But for most people that have shingle roofs, racking will be attached to the trusses in your roof. And then they use a special flashing material that's made for the solar industry, so there's no leaking. So it's attached to the trusses, flashing, then the solar panels are attached to the racking. So there's always a little bit of space between the solar panels and your roof. Good news is that this kind of helps extend the life of your roof because it's really blocking the sun's rays from hitting your roof and any sort of weather. So that's great news. So yeah, that racking is attached to your roof. Location and siting. This is a very important topic to discuss. We have had folks in the city of Milwaukee in the past, homeowners that have wanted solar, and they just have so much shading. We tried doing an outreach program in the Washington Heights neighborhood, and they have a very robust tree canopy there. And so there are some folks who wanted solar and it just really wouldn't work for them. The ideal situation for solar is a south-facing surface. It's free of shading from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. is called your solar window. So that's when your solar panels are going to be producing the most electricity. So it's important to have as little shading from neighboring trees, neighboring buildings, even power lines or the electrical poles can all cast shading on your roof. So south-facing is ideal. Oh yeah, so avoid shading from trees, buildings, or poles. You can install solar facing east-west. In the past, we really didn't see it. The state incentive program, Focus on Energy, would not give cashback incentives for solar installations that face east-west, but now they are. They changed their tune, and so we're seeing some more east-west solar installations going in. It's definitely doable. It's not going to produce as much electricity as if it was facing the south, but it still works. That's good news for a lot of people. This is a website that I always send people to if they're like just kind of starting to get interested in solar. It's called, you can see it on the bottom, Google Project Sunroof. So you can Google Project Sunroof, and it allows you to put your address in, and it will show you that solar window, that 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. using their satellite data. With a little asterisk, be careful because it's not always totally up to date. So if you've trimmed a tree or trees come down, like probably in the past year or two, it might not reflect that. I don't know how frequently they update it. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you have a detached garage, that might be a great location for solar. It doesn't always show detached garages. It kind of just pulls that like main address. But you can see here the house on the left, not really a great candidate for solar. They could still get an assessment from a solar installer to see what they say and if they've had any trees trimmed. But the house on the right, perfect. It's a great candidate for solar. So mounting your solar, roof mounted, like in that little illustration I showed, roof mounting is the most common way to install solar. It's going to be the most affordable way to install solar. So you need that good solar window. South is ideal, but east-west still works. It probably produces about 80% of what a south-facing installation will produce. So look for any shading from trees or neighboring buildings. Other things to take into consideration: snow, which we already talked about, hail. The solar panels are rated, it kind of varies a little bit from company to company, but hail, the panels are rated for 1-inch hail at 60 miles per hour. So they're pretty hardcore, heavy duty. They can withstand hail. Wind loading, this really only comes into play for commercial installations or if you are a homeowner that has a flat roof on your home. So the solar panels will be elevated a little bit more at an angle. So you really have to take a look at that wind loading. Roof condition, so age of shingles. This is the #1 roadblock that we see for homeowners that might push their solar installation back a year or two, depending on or finances. But a lot of times people are really excited for solar, then they realize that maybe their roof is a little bit too old, and they have to have the roof replaced first before they install their solar. You don't have to, but it will save you money in the long run, because if you know, let's say you have like a 20-year roof and you're at year 15, you're probably going to want to replace your roof first, because otherwise you could pay to put your solar up. You know, maybe 10 years later, your roof needs replacing. You'll have to pay somebody to take your panels off, replace your roof, and then put the panels back up. So it's mostly labor costs, you know, but it's not astronomical, but, you know, maybe a couple $1,000s. So we don't want anyone to have to spend unnecessary money. Also, the sun is like hitting me right in my face. And then squirrels. This is something that pops up occasionally, not very often. I've actually only heard of it happening once in Milwaukee, but I do like to tell people about it because the solar panels are attached to that racking and there's a little bit of space. We did have a homeowner in River West who had squirrels like get under there and build a nest, and one of the squirrels were like chewing on the wires. So if you know that you have a ton of squirrels in your yard, like my yard is full of squirrels, there is a product that solar installers can install, and it's just like a little guard around the edge to keep the squirrels out. But things to keep in mind. Are we doing on time? Okay, we're good. So solar basics, you got your panels, you got your inverter, your racking. There will be another like utility requirement, a disconnect switch. So if there's ever, you know, a fire in your home and the firefighters come, they need to be able to switch that off, especially if it's during the day. So there's a switch that will turn it off. So that's a disconnect switch. But with that second utility meter, you are connected to the grid. And the way that that works is the grid is kind of serving as battery storage for your unused electricity. If you have solar in your house and you're gone during the middle of the day in the summertime, your solar panels are still going to be producing. You're not there, you're not really using any electricity. So instead of that being wasted, it goes out onto the grid. And so that's why the utility keeps track of how much you use and how much your solar is producing. Because if there's excess energy during the day that you're not using, it goes out onto the grid and the utility will sell that to other customers, and that will be reflected on your bill. So you will get credit for that. They do credit people at the wholesale rate. So some folks are like, I want to fill my roof with solar and then all the extra energy I'll get paid from the utility for. So we don't really recommend that. The utility, you buy at the retail rate, which is almost 14 cents, 13.9 cents a kilowatt hour. And they will compensate you at about 3 cents a kilowatt hour for any extra. So you get a little bit, which is still good news. So yeah, connecting to the grid, especially in an urban area like Milwaukee or Milwaukee County is a good idea. So basically that second meter system of keeping track of the credits and the production and your use is called net metering. The alternative, if people want solar and don't want to be connected to the grid, would be batteries. So it can be costly, still doable. A lot more people are installing batteries in Milwaukee than I've ever seen in the past 10 years. So more and more people are doing it. So there are, all those things are conversations you can have with your solar installer based on your needs. So that net metering concept, like I was talking about, this chart shows blue is how much electricity this household is using, and the yellow is showing how much electricity their solar is producing. So if you're, pre-pandemic days when people would be out at the office or out at work during the day and not home, that's when their solar panels are producing the most electricity. But then in the morning, when they wake up or when they come home at night or making dinner, that's when they're using the most electricity. So keeping track of those two things is really helpful. And then the utility basically keeps a running tally of both things throughout the month. And at the end of the month, they close out your account for the month and let you know if you have credits or if you use more electricity than you produce, and then they'll send you a bill. But because the solar is producing electricity that whole month, your bill will be greatly reduced. So just like some cool photos of different mounting options. Like I said, roof is most common, most affordable. And this is a home in Bayview that installed solar probably about 10 or 12 years ago, a while ago, but it's really cool. They have it on their garage and their home. Excuse me. These are trackers or pole mounted solar. There is a pole mounted solar installation in the city of Milwaukee on a urban farm that the city's Department of City Development worked on. It's called Cream City Farms on like 30th and Lisbon. And so it's not super common, especially for residential, but for commercial, you see it from time to time. So that is an option. I really like this one. It's an awning solar mount. So obviously, you know, they do it on a south-facing surface of their home, and it also creates like a little bit of shade. This picture is not from Milwaukee, unfortunately, but it's such a great example. I always like including it. This is a canopy mount, similar to that parking lot picture I showed in the beginning. So just getting creative with the surfaces in your home and where you can put solar. There is something similar to this. For if anyone on this webinar is in Bayview, the Bayview bus stop, art stop, at the intersection of KK and Lincoln, they have it's hard to see, but they have solar like this. And ground mount, also another application that we don't really see in the city, but if anyone's on this webinar from Milwaukee County and they have a little bit more space in their yard, this is an option as well. We see this probably more up north, but similar to the large scale utility solar. So if you are ready to go and you thought about all these things, the next step would be to contact a solar installer. And what they're going to do, most of them use satellite data to start out with. Use satellite data to look at your roof, look for any shading. And then if you are like, yep, I'm ready to go, they'll come to your home and have a conversation with you and look at your utility bills to see how much electricity you're using, and then do a more detailed evaluation of shading on your roof. This is an instructor for the Midwest Renewable Energy Association, and it's called a site assessment. So basically they're coming to your house and checking things out, checking shading. They'll use that shade analysis to determine the best location for the solar panels on your roof. If you have a little bit of shading on one side, you know, they might scooch them off to the other side. This is, he's doing a site assessment for Escuela Verde, which is a school next to the Urban Ecology Center branch on Pierce on the south side. And so he's basically just, you can kind of see their shading from mechanicals on the roof. So he's charting out all the shading and helping them figure out where their solar panels should go. And this is what he's looking at. So like, again, I said 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., that solar window, that's when your panels will be producing the most electricity. So he's charting out using this tool to see if there's any shading in that zone. So recap. A home well suited for solar has a south-facing roof, ideally, or east-west as a backup. You can do it on your home, your garage, and your backyard. Do an awning mount. Check for shading issues. You can kind of look at it ahead of time and see before your solar installer comes. Think about your roof, the age of your roof, and condition of your roof, and if your roof is structurally sound. If you have any questions about that, the solar installers are experts in this. So here's a little example of kind of like a example home in We Energy's territory for a 5 kilowatt system, which is probably about 18 or 20 panels. So you can see here their historical kilowatt hour usage broken down by month. If you go and make an online account with We Energies, you can see a couple of years of your energy usage by month, which I highly recommend. Typically, if you have air conditioning in your home, that's going to be the months where you use the most electricity. And you can kind of see here, August, this pretend example used 850 kilowatt hours in the month of August, probably because they had their air conditioning on. December seems high too, but maybe that's for Christmas lights or something. And then this would be something similar that you would see from your solar installer based on a 5 kilowatt solar array on your roof. And the blue is energy you're using, and the orange is energy the solar is producing. So you can obviously see in April, May, and June, producing more electricity than you're using. So those months you would see a credit on your We Energies bill. Other months, you would receive a bill from We Energies, but obviously for half of what it normally is, or a tenth of what it normally is, depending on the months. Because we live in Wisconsin, most of the time, like the November, December, January, February, those are the months when it's cloudiest, so your solar might not produce what you use, but in those summer months, it really pumps out the electricity, so that's always good news. Okay, solar financials, and we're doing okay on time. How much is this going to cost, and what will affect the cost? There's different things that can affect the cost of a solar installation. It's not like one system for every home. Every home's different. Every home has a different configuration, and every home uses a different amount of electricity. Things that can impact the cost would be the system size and the design. Earlier in the presentation, when I showed that gentleman from Bayview who just kind of had those 2 little panels, he actually had like another 2 little panels on the back. That might have cost a little bit more just because the design was a little bit more complicated and they would have to run conduit connecting them. So something like that. Module type, a module is the same thing as a solar panel. There's different types of solar panels. If you've seen the pictures throughout the presentation, some have a metal frame around them, some just have glass. There's these solar panels called black on black, and they're like pure black with a black frame. Those are a little bit more expensive, but they look, pretty cool. So some people will opt for that. The inverter type, we talked about those 3 different types of inverters. The string inverter, so 1 inverter for the whole system, that's going to be the least expensive way to go. Slope or height of your roof. If you have more than a 1-story home, it might be just a little bit more expensive to install solar because it takes a little bit longer. They have to the solar installers have to tie off for OSHA requirements. There was a home on the east side that installed solar that I think it was 3 stories, very steep roof that cost a little bit more, not like astronomically more, but maybe a couple $100 more. It just is a little bit more slow going. Obviously, a detached garage like the picture here is probably pretty easy. But yeah, so that could add a little bit complexity of electrical interconnection. So wherever your electric box or your fuse box is, most people it's in the basement, some people it's like in their back hall. If there's not enough space in there or capacity, they would have to add some capacity. And so sometimes that costs a little bit. We have had some wonky situations where a home was like a duplex and then it went back to a single family home. And so they had like 2 boxes and basically your electric has to be up to code. And so sometimes there's like a little bit of work that goes into that if you have old electrical or, something out of the ordinary. Type of roofing material. This really only comes into play if you have tile roofs, like the Spanish tile roofs. Sometimes that could be it's a little bit more multiple PV arrays, so multiple solar arrays if you want to do it on your house and your garage. Garage can be a tiny bit more because everything has to come back to your house and go through your electrical box before it goes through back to that second meter. So if you do it on your garage, they just have to trench it back to your home. Good news though is that there are state incentives, federal incentives, which really helps bring down the cost. Right now there is a 26% federal tax credit. It was supposed to step down in 2021, but it got extended. So we are very excited for that. It was supposed to step down to 22%. Utility net metering credits, that's what I talked about, where if you overproduce, if your solar is producing more than you use, the utility will compensate you for that. Focus on Energy is our state incentive program. So they give out cash back rebates for renewable energy and energy efficiency. For this year, the cash back rebate is $500 per home. For anybody on the webinar that is interested in solar for their business, there's more incentives there's more Focus on Energy money available for businesses because they tend to do larger system sizes. And then there's additional tax benefits for businesses that install solar. They have 5 years of accelerated depreciation on the equipment, which is really great as well. So DSIRE website, DSIREUSA.org is a website for the whole country, and it lists any sort of incentive programs in your state for energy efficiency, renewable energy. So I talked about that 26% federal tax credit. Here's just a little bit of more data about that. When people ask me tax questions, I always get nervous because I pay someone to do my taxes. And there's some complicated tax questions out there, but there's a lot of great information online. So this is the news that we are excited about, is the solar investment tax credit, that federal tax credit, 26% for this year, 26% for next year, which is great because it was supposed to go away next year. So then it steps down to 22% in 2023, but keep your eye on that 2024 number. You can see it drops down to 10% for commercial and 0 for homeowners. So in these next 3 years, I feel like there's going to be a lot of solar going in, especially for homes. So here is just a little example of a system size for a home in Milwaukee and how much it produces. So average Milwaukee installation is about 3.5 kilowatts. And here is a picture of a system that's about 3.5 kilowatts. So that system is going to produce about 10 kilowatt hours a day of electricity. Milwaukee, on that earlier in the presentation, I showed that map of the US, we're in the zone of average of 5 sun hours a day. So over the course of the year, this system will produce about 4,600 kilowatt hours. For a typical household, that will offset about half, maybe 75% of your energy. You know, if you've already done energy efficiency and you have a smaller household, that might produce, you know, like 90%. I mentioned ME2 here, that's the city's energy efficiency program, but just in general, we always preach energy efficiency in partnership with renewable energy. Bring down the amount of energy you need in your house and you can install a smaller solar array, or your solar array will produce more of your electricity. And I always recommend logging in and creating an online account for We Energy so you can get an idea of how much energy you use. And this is what a typical We Energy's bill will look like for a homeowner. This is somebody that works for the MREA who lives in Milwaukee, and he has an older home on the east side, but a 2-person home. You can see that 4th column there, that's how much energy he's using every single month. That's the kilowatt hours. And that's the number you want to look at and talk to your solar installer about. City of Milwaukee also has a partnership with Summit Credit Union. We have a solar loan program with Summit Credit Union. We also have a loan program for energy efficiency. You have to live in the city of Milwaukee to participate in this loan program, but it's a loan up to $20,000. Can be used for re-roofing if you're going to move forward with solar, but also re-roofing and solar, or just solar. No penalties for prepayment. A lot of times people will take out like a home equity line of credit or get financing from their bank or credit union, and then when they get their tax credit back, when they do their taxes, they'll pay a big chunk of that off, and when they get their Focus on Energy check, they'll pay some of that off as well. So finding a solar installer. My goal at this job is to make sure everyone has a positive experience installing solar. I never want anyone to have a negative experience. It's probably something you're only going to do once. So we want to make sure that you're working with somebody who's good and they know what they're doing. So when people ask me, I always say, make sure that they have a master electrician on staff. For the city of Milwaukee, you have to have a master electrician, pull their permit. NABCEP, really important. I always say NABCEP is the gold standard for renewable energy practitioners. It's a national certification. It's a really difficult exam that installers have to pass. And so we always say, ask them if they have NABCEP certified installer on staff. Ask them if they've completed any residential or commercial installs in our utility territory. And then I always recommend getting at least 2 bids. Every once in a while, we'll see a bid from a company that maybe doesn't do a lot of solar, and it'll just be like very high. Like very high. So it's always good to get at least 2 so you can kind of compare them. So just a little bit about our solar group buy program. We've kind of been running these. We didn't run it last year because of the pandemic, but we've been running these for almost a decade. And so we've been doing it. So Mayor Barrett likes to call our solar group buy program the Costco of solar, because it's basically the solar installer is bulk purchasing a bunch of solar panels and components because they're going to do a lot of installations in a small geographic area. So we create a community advisory committee to select a solar installer. We do a lot of community-led outreach. So this is actually kind of our first little community webinar. We're going to have a bunch more scheduled throughout the summer. It usually launches in spring and ends in fall, and so there's a limited time. We really put an emphasis on education, and then economies of scale. That's the Costco component. So this year we are doing a Solar Greater Milwaukee program. In the past, we used to just do it neighborhood by neighborhood within the city, but we get so many requests from other municipalities in Milwaukee County that wanted to do it too. So I think I have a slide that shows the past programs that we've done. But you can see on the bottom here, we are doing it in partnership with our nonprofit partner, the Midwest Renewable Energy Association. They're amazing. Bayview Neighborhood Association, us, Glendale, Bayside, Fox Point, Shorewood, Whitefish Bay. Gonna be busy, but good. We want to see as much solar installed as we possibly can. So if you want more information about that, this is the website for the program, growsolar.org/Milwaukee. You can sign up just to get more information, or you can even sign up to get a site assessment. We actually just selected, the committee met twice, and we just selected the solar installer. We'll be working with Arch Electric this summer, and so you can sign up right away and get that site assessment, have them look at your house using satellite data and start to get an idea of like a system for your home or your business, and then costs. These are the ones we've done in the past. The very first one we ever did was in River West, which was amazing. We did Bayview, Layton Boulevard West, Washington Heights. We did the East Side, and then we partnered with Wauwatosa and Shorewood. Good thing. So here's like an example of a price that you would see for this solar group buy. So we have a lot of these information sessions, and they're either hosted by me or by the Midwest Renewable Energy Association, which is a nonprofit. So people feel really comfortable asking us questions and having us look stuff over versus asking questions to a contractor. So we feel super important about the education aspect. And we can, we're there to help troubleshoot any problems along the way. So this is probably about the range that we'll see for the program. A 3 kilowatt system with the pricing that the solar installer came back with us for would be about $10,500 before incentives. You would then get that $500 check back from Focus on Energy, and then you claim 26% on the remaining, subtracting the Focus on Energy check. And then, so a final average cost of about $7,400. The benefit of the solar group buy program is we kind of like have one of those little thermometers that we like fill in as we go. More solar that's installed as a community collectively through this program. At the end of the program, the solar installer will issue like rebate checks or like bonus checks to people that participate. So if we get about 20 to 30 homes, if we reach 150 kilowatts total, everyone would get, a rebate check for in the range of like $200, $250, all the way up. If we can have more than 70 homes participate in the program, the checks would be probably closer to like $800. So it's just like a little bonus for helping to spread the word and for the community installing solar collectively as a community. Other great thing about the Solar Group Buy program is that the selected installer will be helping to do a solar installation at Walnut Way, which is in Lindsay Heights. For those people that haven't heard of Walnut Way, they're a really amazing nonprofit. They do a lot of job training, urban agriculture. They have some solar already, and they're currently, the Walnut Way staff is currently going through solar job training with the Midwest Renewable Energy Association. So solar jobs. Okay, I'll talk quick. We got 2 minutes. Solar jobs are increasing every single year. They dipped a little bit in 2017 and 2018, and we're not quite sure why. We think there's a tariff on some solar panels, and that might have affected the industry. But with that tax credit expected to expire in the next 3 years, the feedback that we hear from solar installers is they cannot hire enough people. They're always looking for people. So it's definitely a great job opportunity if you're interested in renewable energy. And here are just some stats about Wisconsin. Waukesha beat Milwaukee for the number of solar jobs. So we need to get more Milwaukee people employed in the solar industry, but there's a lot of solar jobs in Wisconsin, but there's more in Michigan and Illinois. So we have a lot of great opportunity for growth in Wisconsin for solar jobs. And it's not just solar installers. It can range from installation, so like being on the roof, doing that kind of work, manufacturing, operations and maintenance, which is a lot of like monitoring people's systems, but then also sales and marketing and, you know, the folks that are out there giving bids. So a wide range of solar jobs depending on your skills. This is a really great tool that I tell people about. If you Google solar career map, it was created by the Department of Energy, and it lists all different solar jobs and the average salaries that go with those jobs and career pathways. So if you start out, if you're new to the industry, you know, what kind of jobs can you advance to, and information on what kind of training is needed for those jobs. Okay. I'll zip really quick through these. So Wisconsin is also really lucky. We have some amazing renewable energy organizations in the state. Renew Wisconsin is an advocacy organization based in Madison. They advocate for all forms of renewable energy. They do a really fun renewable energy bike ride when it's not a pandemic. The MREA, which I talked a lot about, they do tons of job training. They help us run the Group Buy program. They host the Energy Fair every summer, which isn't happening this summer, but hopefully 2022. It's the country's largest renewable energy and sustainability festival, and that happens in central Wisconsin by Stevens Point. And then here, I'll zoom through these. These are just some really great pictures of the solar we are seeing popping up around Wisconsin. This is a really cool trend of planting pollinator species around these large solar fields. So you can see this is great flowers for butterflies and bees. This is an installation that's near Lake Geneva. These are the large scale, utility scale solar installations that we're seeing pop up. So yeah, thank you so much to Milwaukee Public Library for their continuing work on climate change education and everything that they do. And then hopefully there's time for questions.
That was so great. Oh, this is so neat to see. I've seen this presentation many times. You've come to our library, and it's just interesting to see like what's changing and what, like, as it develops. It's just so great to see. So that was some really good information. Thank you.
Fun.
Yeah. So Justin asks, what is required to allow a system to provide AC to the house during a power outage?
Oh yeah, so that's a great question. When the grid goes down, if there's like a huge storm, your solar will also stop producing, and this is a safety mechanism. So the inverter controls your system, and it has sensors in that. So if the inverter is not sensing any electricity coming from the grid, like let's say there's down power lines because there's a tornado, it prevents your solar from pumping electricity out onto the grid, because that could create a dangerous situation for We Energy's repair crews if, you know, there's extra energy that they're not aware of. There are some inverters that can be isolated from the grid, and they have a plug in them. So it could power a critical load, like if you have a chest freezer or, you know, your refrigerator and you want to charge your cell phones or stuff like that. And that's, I have seen inverters out there that do that. That's a good question.
Yeah. And what was that Job Solar website? Again?
Oh, sure. Let me zoom backwards. Sorry. So if you Google solar career map, I know the picture got kind of cut off. Sorry, guys. Solar career map. It's really great. And it's like interactive. Like if you like here, I just did like a screen grab. I clicked on solar installation helper, which is really like a person who's on site helping to bring the panels up, you know, helping to stage materials. And then you click on that and it kind of tells you, you know, it animates it and it shows you the most likely career paths and then the salary range. So, you know, obviously like the ones at the entry level will be making the least, but, you know, you can really move up in, you know, in the industry. I mean, it talks about training. It's a national thing. So, you know, the salaries are national averages, but it has a lot of great info.
That's fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much. How do solar panels affect your home insurance?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the solar installers that I've talked to have said that you can let your insurance company know that you're installing solar. I mean, typically the cost is similar in cost if you would replace your furnace, so it's, it's still an investment, an upfront investment, but it's not, in the past, like 15 years ago, solar would be like $35,000, $40,000. If your insurance company tells you that your premiums are going like way, way up, that's not normal. They shouldn't be doing that. So you could either talk to them about that or look for another company. Most of the time it won't affect it at all. Oh, something good to note too, and Wisconsin is lucky to have this, is that solar can increase the value of your home, but your taxes cannot go up based on that increased value for energy efficiency or renewables. So a few years ago, I did give a presentation at the state assessors conference. And we'll pop in, like I'm in City Hall right now, and this the city assessor's office is in here too. And so Steve Miner, who is the city assessor, he's super great, and he's aware of it. And every once in a while I just kind of like remind them.
Absolutely. And thank you, Beth. Beth is dropping some of these links in the chat too. Petra, hi Petra, is asking, will you be offering a group buy option for 2022? Do you know that yet?
I don't. Typically we do one every single year. Last year we didn't. I think it really depends on if we're going to be pursuing solar on city buildings, because then I can't do all, but I hope we do. We always partner with the MREA, and they do so much of the heavy lifting on those. So hopefully we do. But we also have our eye on some solar installations on city buildings. So.
All right, that's fantastic. Can panels be installed flat, or do they need to be at an angle?
So it depends on the angle of your roof. They really kind of want them, I think it has to do with like the where we are on the globe. We get those 5 sun hours a day, but you want really the maximum output from your solar panels. And so, the solar installers use the software that takes into account, like winter solstice and summer solstice, and like really the best angle. And sometimes shading can affect that as well. So like some of those pictures from the library, they're at a pretty steep angle, like 30 degrees. The picture that I showed of Center Street Library, those are at 10 degrees. So they're pretty flat. The flatter they are, the longer the snow will stay on them. So that's something that solar installers think about too. And the State Focus on Energy program, they have some really smart people working on that program. And so they have some requirements for the way the solar can, they want quality solar installations that are going to actually be producing clean energy. So they have a little bit of requirements about that as well. And the angle, I think 10 degrees is maybe the flattest you can go.
Sure. Okay, that's good to know. Someone's asking, is it possible to get a copy of the recording and the slideshow? So we are recording this live. So it will be on the MPL Facebook, or I'm sorry, the MPL YouTube page. What about the slideshow, Elizabeth?
Like a copy? I'm happy. I can the photos make it very gigantic. So, and then the whole time this recording is going on, you can see the sun like hitting me right in the eye. I can turn it into a PDF and send that along if that helps.
Sure. Yeah, we can send that out to everybody too. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. And then Diane, I think may have misheard. She was asking, did you say that it's $70,000 to install solar panels on a home?
Oh, no. So the cost of solar has come down probably like 80% in the last decade. So, those folks that installed solar in the 70s, the original solar folks, that was super expensive. The cost has come down so much. And so the average cost for a home in Milwaukee, after you do your tax credit and get your focus on energy incentive, is around $7,000. And then, so it's at $7,000, which is an upfront cost, which is, a hurdle for a lot of people. Then your utility bill is really reduced. So people's return on investment of that initial upfront investment is for homeowners, it's usually like around 7 or 8 years. So, you know, you'll receive like no electric bill in the summer, and in the winter it'll be reduced. And so you're kind of slowly earning your money back. I like to say it's the only appliance you'll buy for your home that will pay for itself.
Very nice. Yes, $7,000 sounds much better.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably, those are like for big commercial installations, $70,000 might be more.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we were just zipping through information. All
right.
right.
It's like so much numbers and so much information in 1 hour. It's
it's fantastic information though. We really appreciate it. I always enjoy hosting this. It's so interesting, and we're getting our roof replaced this spring, and it's like, oh, I'll have to look at the solar. And on my house we have a lot of big trees, but we'll see.
Ooh, yeah, check out that Google Project sunroof.
Yeah, absolutely. I took a lot of notes.
Oh, good.
All right, well, thank you everybody. I think we're right at 5 o'clock, and I think we lots of thank yous in our chat, saying they learned a lot about solar, and I learned a lot, so I really appreciate it. And it's always so nice to see you. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Yeah, you too, Fawn. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a good weekend.
Thanks everyone. Bye. Thank you for coming.
Bye.